I will be Brother Jim today. You know, not too long ago, we were searching for a pastor. Y'all remember our hair got grayer, fell out more, we were stressed. And then in his time, God blessed us. God blessed us with Jim and Kathy. And 'tis the season. So on behalf of Westside, we'd like to present you guys with a gift. And to thank y'all for being a part of our family. We love you.
This season, would you hand that to my wife?
Absolutely. I was going to take it back from you.
We need not pretend anything else. Anything left in my hand is dangerous. Not just money, anything. Because I can lose things. Merry Christmas. Isn't it a beautiful day? I'm always struggle sometimes when you're preaching. That I never want to quite do the same thing that everyone else does. Because if someone who, the biggest crowds are usually around Christmas and Easter, and if all you do is preach traditional Christmas and Easter, people miss there's a whole bunch of stuff in between there. Real important stuff. And so this morning, it is a Christmas, but it is kind of a little bit different. I hope that this helps you understand some things and that we can grow together. I don't know if you've seen the news, but a woman was found suffering from severe hypothermia yesterday and had to be taken to the hospital. And she'd spent the whole night out, and that was despite her boyfriend telling her over and over and over again, "Baby, it's cold outside." I don't know about you, but I've been enjoying myself taking those breaks at the mall. I actually do enjoy the mall at Christmas time because of the hustle and bustle, and then it really gets close to time, you find that I break out into song sometimes. When that little demon ahead of me is just carrying on something fierce, and I break out into song and I start singing. Oh, you better watch out, you better. Sometimes they're not real appreciative of my song at that point, but it seems to be appropriate. And though my Christmas list, I've only had one thing on my Christmas list for several years, and I'm not sure I will ever get it. I probably won't this week. And that's why I want a missile launcher for my car. You know those people who annoy you? Because I have places to go. Like the mall. Or in my pretty much retired state, just about anywhere, but I'm going nowhere and I'm in a hurry to get there. I know the time has come. Those people are my way. Maybe I have a little to learn from today's lesson as well. I share with you the sweetest little article I saw the other day. And it had a picture, and it was a little baggie, and it wasn't more than after it was pushed down and twist tied, it wasn't over about that big. And it was a teacher who had received from her student. And it was the marshmallows out of her cereal. You know what? That's sacrificial giving. That was important to her. And it was important enough to her that that's how she would let her teacher know. And that teacher shared that online because she realized what she was being given. And I'll bet you she doesn't eat it. I bet she saves it. to remind her every day of that little girl. Sometimes he has to move the first slide because I can't, and then it'll pick up. It's time. It's time. Interesting sermon title. Because when I put it, when I sent it for putting in the bulletin, I wondered, now I wonder if anybody's going to wonder, what in the world are you talking about? Because the first thing that came to my mind after it was printed was, these are the words that you hear from a pregnant woman. It's time. Get your attention. Maybe it's after a time when family members have come for a visit for a few days, and someone once said, family coming for a visit is kind of like potato salad. After a few days, it's time for them to go. It's time. But today I want us to focus on a time when God decided it was time. And perhaps, if you have that problem of lack of patience sometimes with other people and with God, maybe you can relate to the young ladies in this clip.
What do you want to watch? Ooh, we do Game of Thrones. Yeah, I've never seen it. I heard it's good. This intro be any longer? Yeah, I've actually been wanting to watch Mad Men. I think we're supposed to be rooting for. Do you want me to explain? Yeah, let's try Downton Abbey actually. Is it me or is it really slow and hard to get into? I think I'm gonna get a snack. Really? We're about to go out to lunch. Yeah, you're right. Just something small. Maybe let it cool down for a bit. Radio? Yeah. Just getting us my mirror work. I'm just making sure everything's good. Just try. Okay. It's yellow. It's yellow! Exactly, it's yellow. How long is this red light? Is it always like this? Yeah, maybe I should track it. Is it possibly possible that she's walking this way? I'm pretty sure that she's 80. I'm not even hungry. We should just go. I can't decide. Do I want to skate? Their omelets are supposed to be amazing. Definitely. We should get the omelet. You should go to the steak. Yeah? Yeah. How are you guys doing? I am going to have a barbecue.
I got totally sidetracked, sorry. But I promise if you give me one more minute, thank you.
Would you mind if we actually got some bread? Did those people cook that first? Thank you. Thank you. That was good.
So good. Love it.
Have you seen that person or been that person? Sorry to say there are times I'm that person. But I want to talk about a time when people had to be very, very patient. And it was the children of Israel. They went through a period of silence 400 years long. From the end of the New Testament until the end of the Old Testament till the New Testament kicks in, that's a 400-year period. And notice there's no scriptures in between because God was silent. And Israel knew and they understood the scriptures well enough that they knew they had been promised a Messiah, and when Israel needed it, that Messiah would come, though they may not have understood exactly how he would come or what he would be like when he got here. Israel went through political upheaval. They were under the rule of different groups, and it was a mess during those 400 years. Surely it's time for God to send his Messiah. They probably thought that year 1 and 2 and 100. Now, if you were, you have to regionalize it, unfortunately, but if you were a Chicago Cub fan like I had to be with up that way a couple years ago, it was only 108 years between championships. A long way. 200 years. 300 years. Don't you think there were times that Israel was saying, hey, did you forget about us? And it would have been reasonable for them to get that. Wouldn't you think maybe you and I might fit in that boat at times? We say, dear Lord, please help so-and-so get over her cold. And then it took 7 days, because that's the normal length of time a cold takes. Well, God didn't answer. Or something much more serious. And we say, come on, God, get with it. And you know the children of Israel must have felt that way at times. But God waited. He waited for just the right time. He knew when it's time. He made sure things were ready for when his son would come and he would send him to us. He wanted the message to be able to go throughout the known world at the time. And at just the right time, God sent forth his son. You see, during this time of waiting, some things happened that were real significant. Alexander the Great had spread the Greek culture throughout the known land. And you know what went with that? A common language, Greek. And those people who's always said, and the common thing when you don't understand something, you say, oh, it's Greek to me. Then I took Greek and couldn't say it anymore. Now I'm rusty enough I can almost say it again. And the Romans had ruled. And one of the things happened from Rome were highways were developed. Highways were developed that went across country lines that had normally been there before. And suddenly the travel from one place to another was possible to travel further. It was possible to travel safer. And even the waterways were safer under Roman rule. And then God said, it's time. It's time for the child to come, born of a woman, just like any other baby, and born under the law, that he would experience the weight of the law that God had put in place, that he would experience that, and that he would be here to live like anyone else. Isn't that amazing? That God would know just the right time that he could send a baby to us. And he sent that baby with a purpose. He sent that baby with a purpose that you and I need to make sure we understand, because it applies to us. Jesus came for the express reason of taking our place. He came as a child, and he lived under the law, and he knew what it was that we needed. And when God sent him, he knew what we needed. We needed someone to redeem us. Oh, it's an interesting word to me. Sometimes we hear that word redeem, and sometimes we look at it as a churchy word, because you don't really use it a lot out and about. But I know so many of you will know exactly what I'm talking about. Remember when you used to purchase something by redeeming it? There was this little item that happened. Got them when you shopped and you stuck them. And you all know what they were, right? Green stamps. And what was the big thing you could buy with green stamps? A car. That was the big one. And that car was two-tone green, just like the stamp. I remember one lady in our town having one. It's a 56 Chevy. I'll tell you what, I wish I had it today. If I found it, I couldn't afford it. He came to pay a price for us. And he came to pay that price with something that we could not do ourselves. He paid a debt that he did not owe. And we owed a debt that we could not pay. And he came at the right time to make that happen. It's not enough being purchased, being redeemed, all the things that he did. God wanted something more from us. He wanted something more. Why in the world? Sometimes do you not shake your head when you imagine Jesus leaving the thrones of heaven? Everything perfect. Everything. Here he is at the top of the chain, right? And he comes down as a baby, knowing that people would reject him. He was still just a little thing when there was the first plot to try to kill him. He knew that before he came. He knew that he would be rejected. He knew that people would spit on him. He knew that they would take him and they would lay him on a tree and they would nail him to that tree and put it up, and he would suffer the most horrifying death anyone could ever do. And knowing that, he left the throne. Why in the world would he do that? Because God needed something, wanted something else. What God wanted was a personal relationship with us. God wanted you and I to have the kind of relationship with him that wasn't just acknowledging he's there. Not just knowing that, well, sometimes he kind of gets intermingled with stuff down here. No. He wanted us to have a personal relationship. To be his sons and daughters. I want you to know that God does not have any grandchildren. There's not second generation. He wants to have a personal relationship. He wants you to be his son. He wants you to be his daughter. And he wants us to think of him as our father, because that's exactly what he was looking for. And that we would be his heir. back in another time when I was doing some child welfare stuff through a parachurch organization where we did private foster care and we did a lot of adoptions, both international and domestic. And the times I was able to go to court and watch that process, I remember two guys, Michael and Jordan. They became Christian and Joseph. They chose fathers. And those boys, I think Christian was about 11, something like that at the time, and Joseph was a couple of years younger. And the boys, they had been sent out for some of the proceedings because some of it wasn't nice about why they were available for adoption. And then the judge, they brought the boys back in and he started asking questions. And he asked of the parents, do you understand that the decision that you're making today, that these will be your sons, just like any other child you have? Do you understand that? I said, yes, sir, we do. Do you understand that they will be equal heirs of your estate as though they were your blood children? Do you understand that? They said, yes. Do you accept that? Yes, we do, Your Honor. He looked at the boys. Do you understand? From this day forward, this is Mom and Dad. For real. Is that what you want? And the boys said, yes, that's what I want. You understand that you were their heir. I'm not sure the boys understood what that word meant, but they said, yes, sir. Moves me to think about it. But it moves me more to think that's exactly what God did. He paved the way, He chose the time, and He wants a relationship with us like children of His. Not anywhere removed, but one-on-one. He wants to have a relationship with us. And He wants that relationship not just to be casual. He wants an intimate relationship and have that kind of interaction with us. And in fact, in our text that was read, it says He wants us to have a relationship with Him, that we would come to Him and say, Abba, Father. In any language, there are formal words and informal words, and sometimes some in between. The man who was involved in bringing us to life, we could call him Father. We could call him Dad. We could call him Daddy. Likewise, Mom, Mother, Mom, Mommy. In the Aramaic language here that is used, it was the very last one. It was the most informal. So God says, you are my children, and I want you to come to me and say, Daddy. Daddy. We should be, I remember the story of a little tyke who had, the dad wanted to show some visitors who were there, and they had a long dining room table. And they said, watch this, how much my child trusts me. And they put the little boy at the far end of the table, and then the dad got at the other end, and then they said, turn off the light. And in the total darkness they heard, jumped into his dad's arms. That's the kind of relationship God asks us to have with Him. We are not necessarily a body of people who do a lot of hand raising here. But you know what? Maybe if we thought of it as saying, Daddy, maybe it'd be a different meaning. Maybe. Because of what God did, we are finally in the relationship He wanted from the time of creation. He created the world perfect. He created man and woman perfect. And then there was the mess up. And since then, God has longed for that relationship. Let me ask you today, do you have that relationship? I don't want you to go away from this place today saying, oh yeah, I have a relationship with God when I need Him. I don't want you to go away saying, yeah, I got a relationship with God. I want you to go away today saying, I have a daddy who looks out for me like no other. If you've never had that relationship, please, I beg you today to do that. Maybe today you'll just make God's day. Because I can tell you, if you go have that kind of relationship, no matter whether you've never accepted Jesus Christ or you've accepted Jesus Christ and wandered, or you've been there but you really haven't really gotten into Him being your daddy, maybe today, even it's a decision that we make while we're standing together, let's make a commitment to that kind of relationship. Let's make God's day, and let's make the angels sing. If you have a decision to make, we invite you to make it. If you want to make it public, you're welcome to do so. If you need to make that decision privately, you're welcome to do that. If you need prayer, I have elders here who would love to pray with you. If you're struggling with your relationship with God, we will be glad to work with you. If you're struggling in some other way, our elders are more than glad, and we would love to be able to lay hands on you and to be able to pray for God's guidance, for God's healing, for His touch in your life. If you have a decision to make, we invite you to make it as we stand together and as we sing.